in the White House, including the president, about dismissal of the Adams charges before the February 10th memorandum?
I respectfully refer you back to my answer, Senator.
I am absolutely flabbergasted that you would come before this committee and refuse to tell us basic facts about a case that is at the core of the challenges to the appearance of impropriety that should disqualify you, that stand by you. Let me ask you about a separate issue, the firing of prosecutors and investigators who were involved in the January 6th prosecutions. You were involved in purging prosecutors who, in good faith and an exercise of their prosecutorial judgment, they went to court, they brought charges, you purged them. Isn't that correct?
I don't agree with the use of the word purged, Senator.
Well, you fired them.
In a heated Senate Judiciary Committee hearing, Senator Sheldon Whitehouse and Senator Richard Blumenthal challenged judicial nominee Mr. Bove over his refusal to answer questions about the controversial dismissal of charges in the Adams case. Whitehouse accused the nominee of hiding behind a so-called deliberative process privilege, which only the government can invoke, not an individual witness. Blumenthal pressed harder, suggesting that Mr. Bove's actions, dismissing charges against a politically sensitive figure, may have been politically motivated and even rewarded with his court nomination. The senator also raised concerns that Mr. Bove helped fire prosecutors and FBI agents involved in January 6 investigations, calling it a political purge. The nominee denied those claims, but his selective refusal to answer questions fueled accusations of evasion and impropriety.
Senator Whitehouse raised this so-called deliberative process privilege. First, this committee and Congress have never accepted that kind of assertion as a basis to evade questioning in this kind of confirmation hearing. But I'd like to point out also that this witness has no right to invoke that privilege. It's a privilege for the government of the United States to invoke. Now, I notice that the Deputy Attorney General is sitting right behind the witness. I didn't hear the Deputy Attorney General invoke this privilege on behalf of the government of the United States. And I might point out also that the witness is invoking it selectively. When he wants to answer the question, no privilege. When he wants to avoid answering the question, he says he's not at liberty to answer it. We've never accepted that kind of tactic on the part of a witness. Yes, nominees have sometimes said they can't comment on a case or an issue because it may come before them as a judge. But this kind of selective invoking of a privilege smacks of evasion and defiance, and I think reflects on us as a committee if we accept it in this context, Mr. Chairman. So I hope that the witness may be instructed to answer these questions, or we can have a resolution somehow on the legitimacy of this kind of privilege and ask the witness to come back. Let me begin my questioning.
Mr. Chairman, I think the clock was started on Senator Blumenthal while he made his point of order. It might be a courtesy to allow it to be. Thank you. There it is.
I hadn't noticed that, Mr. Chairman, but I thank Senator Whitehouse for pointing it out. Thank you.
Let me say in the future,
Mr. Bove,
White House made very clear the issues you're bringing up, and I said I'm willing to discuss them. But
thank you.
We can't take the time of this committee to hear a repeat of everything from every member that would disagree with what I said in my opening statement.
I appreciate
Senator
your
Bowman.
point, Mr. Chairman. I'll begin my questioning. Mr. Bove, you responded to Senator Kennedy's questions about who was consulted about the dismissal of charges against Mr. Adams. Did you ever talk to Stephen Miller before you filed the memorandum on February 10th ordering the dismissal of the Adams charges?
Senator, I responded to Senator Kennedy's questions based on a publicly filed document that described the Attorney General as a...
Did you talk to Stephen Miller?
I'm not going to describe the participants in conversations.
So you won't answer that question?
No, I will not, Senator.
Why?
Because it is not appropriate for me to discuss...
It is appropriate for you to tell us whom you consulted before taking action on behalf of the United States of America. You have no basis to avoid that question, Mr. Bove.
Respectfully, Senator, I'm answering that question in a manner similar to several nominees before me, including Judge Katz's.
Did you talk to anyone in the White House, including the president, about dismissal of the Adams charges before the February 10th memorandum?
I respectfully refer you back to my answer, Senator.
I am absolutely flabbergasted that you would come before this committee and refuse to tell us basic facts about a case that is at the core of the challenges to the appearance of impropriety that should disqualify you. You have the opportunity to clear the air, to come clean with the American people as well as this committee, and you are evading and avoiding these questions.
Senator, if you have a question about the position that I took in public with respect to the Mayor Adams case, I'm happy to address it, and I've addressed several today.
Well, I have asked you a question that bears on the appearance of impropriety. Let me go on. Mr. Bove, in court, you represented, first, that there was no quid pro quo, but you said that the decision, even if there were a quid pro quo, was unreviewable. Unreviewable by the court. Do you stand by that?
I don't think that's what I said, Senator, because it's not consistent with the rule, which explicitly provides...
Well, you said it not only once, but you said it a number of times, and the judge observed, Judge Ho said, that your position was, quote, fundamentally incompatible with the basic promise of equal justice under law. That's what he said about your position, that the decision to dismiss these charges was unreviewable. Do you stand by that assertion?
I never made that assertion, and the judge granted the motion, Senator.
He granted the motion, but he disagreed with your premise that it was unreviewable. Let me ask you, are decisions to dismiss cases, as with that one, unreviewable?
The text of Rule 48 requires, in the instances presented by the Adams case, that dismissal only be provided for with leave of the court. That's as near a quote as I can give you, and the entire brief that I submitted acknowledged that point because we were seeking the leave.
Mr. Bove, I am concerned about the quid pro quo that the judge concluded had been done. In fact, he said everything here smacks of a bargain. Everything here smacks of a bargain. But the quid pro quo that really concerns me is the one that brings you here today. You were virtually the only attorney in the Department of Justice willing to go to court and make a claim that career prosecutors said violated their basic standard of ethics. And the quid pro quo was a nomination to the Court of Appeals. That's the appearance that the American people can take away from your sitting before us with that nomination. And I think it does grave damage to respect for the rule of law, notwithstanding your assertions about your adherence to it, for you to be here as a result of that stand by you. Let me ask you about a separate issue, the firing of prosecutors and investigators who were involved in the January 6th prosecutions. You were involved in purging prosecutors who, in good faith and an exercise of their prosecutorial judgment, they went to court, they brought charges, you purged them. Isn't that correct?
I don't agree with the use of the word purged, Senator.
Well, you fired them.
I authorized the termination of probationary employees at that U.S. Attorney's Office, yes.
Because they prosecuted the January 6th rioters.
No, because I was concerned about efforts in the prior administration to embed those prosecutors as permanent employees at the U.S. Attorney's Office.
And you
tie-
also fired the FBI investigators involved in the January 6th prosecution, correct?
No, that's not accurate.
You worked with Director Patel in firing them, correct?
No, that's not accurate.
Senator Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to pivot away from the Democrats' fake outrage